use it, that's all.
Okay, I will manage the time, so I will say shut up to the guys when your time is up and it's Nils' turn. But without further ado, please, Mikko and the boys.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Mikko, and other guys are boys.
Yes.
So I hope you can see my screen quite soon.
Yes, it's working now.
Okay. So let's start presenting. Let's start there. Do you see big R?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
You're making
Okay.
commercial again.
Sorry. So, welcome everyone to our release of Robot Framework Browser version 1.0. And the menu for this release is here. So I'm briefly going to introduce everyone to this project. Then René will show a demo or some other demos about the project itself. And Kerkko, who has been doing all the hard work, almost all, is going to make the actual final release, or the first release, let's say. And then we also have a 42-second time slot for Tatu Aalto to talk. And after that, there's some time for questions. All right. So what is Robot Framework Browser? Well, basically, it's a browser automation library that we've been building during this summer.
I have one question.
Sure.
Can we move Kerkko and my slot? Because my beer is getting warm.
Sure. I don't mind.
Good.
Okay.
Then you may
Sure.
proceed.
Sure.
Okay.
Germans.
So it's a browser library, browser automation library that is powered by a tool called Playwright. And Playwright is a newer browser automation library that is inside of the Node ecosystem. So here it's the web page of that library. And actually, when we started this project, I contacted Tatu Aalto about building a new browser automation library for Robot Framework ecosystem, and I suggested Puppeteer, but Tatu said that no, there's this new cool thing called Playwright. So let's try that. And so the project began from Playwright. Playwright has some nice features compared to Puppeteer. One of the major ones is that Google lost their lead development team on Puppeteer to Microsoft, and so began the Playwright project. So Playwright has all the like, let's say, core people from the Puppeteer project doing stuff there. And the other cool stuff is that it also supports Safari and Firefox-based automation tool or browsers. So it's not only a Chromium tool. Yeah.
And which is also cool, like, for example, you can test Safari on Windows. So like WebKit on Windows, which typically with Selenium you need hardware Mac to run it.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go back to the presentation mode. All right. So that is how the project began. Then at some point we decided to change the name from Robot Framework Playwright to Robot Framework Browser, and now that is the name of the project. We're basically aiming for speedier, more reliable, and more visible solution for browser automation. So you should, especially if you're comparing your test cases developed with the Selenium library, the ones with the Robot Framework Browser, they should run faster, be more reliable, and you should gain more visibility to what is actually happening under the hood. And we're targeting 3 interfaces. So first of all, the user interface. That means all the interactions with the UI elements that the users all see on the browsers. Second one is the internals of a web app, where we can execute JavaScript and see also what other things are happening under the hood. And the third interface is the requests and responses. So whatever browser broadcasts to the services that are in internet, that means communication with servers. We have, for example, direct HTTP connection stuff there. Yes, that's my short intro about this. There's been a lot of people participating in this project so far. It's really community driven, and that is how we want it to be in the future also. We were very, let's say, proud to have Janne Härkönen and Kerkko Peltari, financed by Robocorp, participating in the project so far. But me, Tatu, and Rene are working on this as a hobby. So that has been our core team. But there's been a ton of other people also who, well, their faces or their shirts are at least on this small slide. Also, Imbus, the company that Rene and Niklas are from, supported Niklas' work on this, and my company that I come from, the Reactor, also supported some of Kerkko's work now. So thanks for everyone for so long, and now it's time for something more interesting. So now I'm turning this to Kerkko, our young apprentice who has done a lot of good work, who is now proud to do some more work.
I had. Let's just go forward with basically this. Where's the correct button? This one. Yeah. So we'll be doing a live release of the version 1.0, and it's going to be pretty simple because we've already done all the code. So we'll just go here and click the publish release button, and then the CI will start to run, and we'll get all the new features out. And then did you
maybe can
question section?
Your voice is breaking. Whoever was talking.
Actually, I just want, pardon my ignorance, I just want to understand, like, what is the significance of this browser?
I will talk a little bit about what is the big advantages of browser compared to Puppeteers or Selenium.
Yeah, I guess the mix-up between my and Rene's term made this a bit unclear, but yeah, so basically what we are doing with this 1.0 release is that we're promising to be like we're moving from the move very fast and break things phase into the move a bit slower and break things a bit less phase. So we'll be announcing breaking changes and trying to keep the API stable, and like basically kind of we'll still keep developing, but in a less unstable way. And that's what this 1.0 really, yeah. Rene.
Maybe you can show the CI which is running.
Right.
So yeah, the idea is that we say, okay, until now we was just able to change from one to another release, just change names and stuff, and now we want to stay more stable with the names and announce changing or breaking changes a little bit more. And I'm also personally very interested in now starting to use this productive with a few customers. And so I would also request from other teams to think about starting new projects with the browser library, because as more users we have, as more feedback we got, as better it will be, because at the moment it's basically us using it and a handful of people from the community.
Yep.
Okay. I think we can...
Yeah,
we can switch to the demo, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, gladly. So...
So, can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. Then maybe one thing what Miko didn't say about the architecture. So the main difference between Selenium and Playwright is that Selenium has these connection between a normal installed browser. Then the normal installed browser is talking some kind of browser API, and we have this translation unit, the browser driver, that translates the browser API to WebDriver API. Then we have these REST API, the WebDriver, and then we have the Selenium implementation in Python, for example, that also speaks WebDriver. So we have these action chain or these stack chain of stuff. And Playwright is completely kind of different because Playwright it's TypeScript or JavaScript based, and Playwright brings directly 3 browsers with it. So when you install Playwright, it brings a Chromium browser, it brings a WebKit browser, and it brings a Firefox browser. So here you see what is comparable browsers that use these technologies. And Playwright, the Playwright class is directly communicating with the developer API of Chromium. So what is one of the biggest issues with Selenium in the past was that the Selenium project is really moving slow. So conservative is maybe a too fast word for the Selenium project. So if there's any new technology, there is nothing happening in the Selenium project for years. Like web components, Shadow DOM stuff, or other things are just not able there. Someone joined in a car, maybe you can mute. Okay, thanks.
It was me. I'm walking.
Hi, Pekka.
Hi. Congrats
Hi.
for the release. I'll mute myself.
Good. So this is direct contact connection to the browser. So we have a lot of more control of the browser and what the browser can do. This is one of the big advantages between Selenium and this. Also, this technology is aiming for new websites. So implicit waits, like waiting for a button to be there, be clickable, be visible, stopping moving if there's an animation or stuff, is automatic content of browser. And browser has a very big advantage compared to Puppeteers. So the one thing is, when the complete development team left Puppeteers and started with Microsoft, of course they started where Puppeteers left. So the initial release of browser was kind of same like Puppeteer, but then they implemented this cross-browser testing stuff. So they implemented the Firefox, a patched Firefox version that is able to be connected like the Chromium API, and a patched web or a WebKit version, which is based on the open source WebKit project that is basically the rendering engine of Safari and so on. And the next thing is they throw away everything what they don't like and implemented stuff they do like, which would be in the Puppeteers project like incompatible change. So one big thing is this browser context and page thing. So Puppeteers does not only know new browser, it has browsers and contexts. And context is a new instance of the same browser without being attached to the old one. So it has completely new cookies, completely new storage, and so on. So when you want to start multi-user testing or something like this, you don't have to open 2 browsers. You just open a Chromium browser and then open 2 contexts. And I want to show you an example of a speed example. When I find my console here, I want to show you the a performance test of few Chromium and Firefox based Playwright tests. They should just run. You see Firefox a little bit slower than WebKit, and then the same test start with headful, and you see how fast this happens. Then the Firefox is a little bit slower, new pages and stuff. And then the same stuff is with WebKit. Now this is WebKit, which is also pretty fast. And now the Selenium starts, and now we have a little bit more time to talk, because the speed difference between Selenium and browser is on stuff like opening browser, closing browser. If you would just use the open browser and start a complete new instance, it would be doubled. But because, and I can show you this in the log later, because opening a new instance that is independent of the former one takes just 100 milliseconds in browser, so there's no need to open a real new browser. So the speed up of opening and closing contexts is minimum by 10 or more. And you see also how slow Selenium reacts also on other interactions with the page. And yeah, that's basically it. I can show you the logs and some timing differences. So, okay, as you see here, the same tests with browser took 30 seconds and with Selenium, but there was no Safari testing here, nearly doubled of time. So what we see here, I hope I can maybe increase a little bit the size. Can I do this? I cannot do this. Why can I not do this? I can do this, but no. Is it good enough or big enough for you? I don't hear anything.
It's pretty okay.
Yes.
It's okay, good. So maybe I can show here this a little bit. So here we have the open browser, new browser thing, and new browser took something like 300 milliseconds with the Chromium. Then we have this new context, which is like 6 milliseconds, and then we have this new page where the first new page is 300 milliseconds, but all the rest new pages here are just 70 milliseconds. And here we have, of course, the loading of a page. It takes some time, but just empty pages are super fast. So when we then see, like here, this open browser takes 400 milliseconds with Chromium. With Firefox, it's slower. Like you see here, this is the new browser on Chromium. It's 1 second on Firefox. But compared to Selenium, these are the Selenium tests. We have this headless Chrome opening in 1.9 seconds compared to 300 milliseconds. And the headful one is just, so this should be this one here. It's nearly the same, so there's no real, oh no, sorry, this is not the headful. This one is the headful. So headful is 2.5 seconds, so it's a little bit more, but not the big deal. But the Firefox is really slow, so in my opinion, don't test with Firefox, just play around with it. It's like 4 seconds. So the speed is one difference between Firefox and browser. We have also a concept of auto-closing contexts. So if you open a new context in the suite setup, the context will stay open over the suite, but when the suite finishes, like the end suite, it will auto-close the context, but the browser will stay open. Same, for example, if you open a new page in a test, it will automatically close after the test is failed, after the test is done. Another thing I want to show you is the magic of the locators in Playwright. What I'm doing now, I'm starting a test, and here I use a small tool which is called debugger. It's just a tool where I can try out some keywords. And one moment, I move this back. So maybe one thing what is also maybe just a little bit about talking about the Playwright keywords. We was talking at the beginning if we want to be compatible with Selenium keywords, but then we thought, no, there are so many new cool things we can't stay compatible, and being a little bit compatible just means we are stuck with the old, maybe not perfect name. So we want to move forward and want to have keyword names of the year 2020. So this is, by the way, a nice improvement which Robot Framework 3.2.2 will bring, that you see the keyword list as a list. And you see here we have this typical like click or click with options. We have open browser, close browser. We have some execute JavaScript, which is much closer to the real JavaScript environment here, like focus and a lot of getters. What you do not see is something like title should be or title should not be or page should contain stuff. So all these assertions where we say now we are expecting something, they are completely integrated into the getters. So for example, if I say get title, you see get title has assertion operator as an argument and an assertion expected. So it has two arguments. And I can show you this here. So, for example, get title would just return, you see here the return value. It was just return car configurator. And what we can now do is we can use this optional assertions like equals test, and it will tell me no, car configurator should be test, but it wasn't. Yeah, and if I do something like this, configurator passed, or I could say, hey, this should start with car, also pass. So here are a few or some assertions, like it should start with something, it should match regex, it should be greater or less than something. And what is also cool is you can just validate it. Validate something like this. Validate just executes some Python evaluations on this value. So we have this value, which would just be this car configurator, and then we can manipulate it with Python, like 1.5, which is still true, and or I could validate false, which would bring an error. And we have also something which is called evaluate, or then we could say we could just manipulate the value. So if I want only the first three characters, I could just say, okay, get the title and then evaluate this expression, and I get just returned car, which is also kind of handy in our code. Then I want to show you the locators. So we have normally everything is just a CSS. So CSS is a new standard locator strategy. They are called selectors here in Playwright. So we could just do something like this here, a highlight element, and then we say inputs. So we can highlight all inputs, which is now here you see there are some marks, or I can say highlight h2. It's highlighted here. What we can also do is CSS is equal h2, which is the same. We could also do xpath is equal, h2 is also the same. And there is a text selector, which is text is equals, and then we can do something like this here, minigolf, It works because it's case insensitive and it strips the spaces, or we can do something like this. Does not find anything, but this, for example, does find something. And then we have shortcuts for these stuff. We can just use high comma or quotes to access a text selector. Just do like here input I already showed, and we could just do something like //h2 for xpath. Now there's coming cool thing. For example, here, if I want to select this element, I can't click on the text, so I can't do something like click ABS because ABS is just selecting this one. I want to have the input element, which has the same parent. So what I had to do in XPath would be something like here. I want to have an element, whatever element that has sample text equals ABS, and then I go to the parent, which is this one, and then I go to the input field, which is this one. Which works well if I want to work with XPath, but if I want to work with CSS, it's kind of pain because it's just not possible to select the parent of some CSS element, and it's also not possible to access text within CSS. But with Playwright now you can mix different locator strategies. So I could say I want to have like an element by text which contains ABS, which is this one. Then the next selector is an XPath selector. XPath selector that just goes a little bit up. And then I want to have a CSS selector from this point, and this select the input. And this is this one. And because I can just get rid of these prefixes, our nice selectors are just something like this. So this works as well. So you can mix up now selectors of CSS, XPath, and text. And you could also work with elements. For example, I could say get element with text ABS, and I get an element returned. So this one here, let's just call this variable elem. So we have now the variable elem, which contains the element locator. And I can do something like this here. Highlight elements, and then I say, okay, we have here our elem, and from there I want to go up and take the input, which is again this input element here. So if I just do the click, one moment, it's not the click is not working on this input, I think, but this is that's a different thing. So with this, for example, it's much easier to iterate over tables, like just say, okay, give me the element of a row, and then from this element of a row, I just select the first column, the second column, the third column, or something like this. Or you can mix like selector strategies. There's also a possibility, like you can say, I want to have, I don't know, a div that contains an input element, CSS, if input that contains ABS or something like this. Moment, let's get rid of this, and in this case I do a highlight element, sorry, CSS equals if ABS. This is the ABS, but if I want to have the actual CSS, I can make a star here, and it selects the diffs that contains the ABS. So we have a lot of power with these selectors. Another thing are the shadow DOM stuff. So a lot of new web technologies has these so-called web components, like this web page here. So like this button here is, as you see here, in these shadow root elements, and the next shadow root and so on. And every vertical line here is a new, completely new independent DOM. So when you would like to work with Selenium, you have to use this JS parse, and this is something like, I can show you, it's something like this here. So this is the selector, and it cannot be shorter, because it's always like, and this is still going on, it's always like getting an element, then getting the shadow DOM, and then getting the next element. And selectors like this are real pain in a project, because if anything changes, you're completely refactoring everything. And Playwright started directly with a full support of shadow DOM, so which means you don't have to do these very long selectors. You could just directly access the elements by ID, for example. So if I have this here, highlight element, I can just do this here, and it should, it's a different page. One moment, let's do this page here. And you see it's directly accessing this, which is just not possible with Selenium. Yeah, so the assertion engines are very, very cool. The assertions are cool. The selectors are cool. The browser and context management is cool, and it's really moving fast. So I like it. I hope you like it as well. We hope it's well documented, so we would assume it's kind of ready documented. If you have any questions, please ask us. We have also marked these different categories of keywords, like we have some getters that are filtered, we have some HTTP keywords, some setters, some waiters. We have also very cool wait stuff like wait for, element hidden, enabled, disabled, read only, selected. And what maybe is also one cool thing is the promise. So if you ever worked with something asynchronous, you could do something like promise to click on the button once it appeared and then do a go to, and then it clicks on the button, and then you can wait for clicking the button is finished. So you can do parallel execution of keywords or detach them from the direct order. So like promise to accept the dialog when it appears, and then you click a button and then it automatically clicks the dialog or something like this. So I think maybe Tatu wanted to tell something, how he find it that we make him jobless on the Selenium library because no one wants to use it anymore.
Well, I don't know about that. Well, it's... If I would now start a new project, I would definitely go and use browser library, because I like the integration that when you install that Playwright stuff with npm, it comes with a bundled browsers, all that stuff. It is not as detached as the Selenium is, that you have to install the Selenium, you have to find the browser driver, and you have to find the correct browser to that driver, and so on. It's a little bit pain to handle because browsers tend to update, and that's the thing. And also, I don't like that you have to. It's very hard for the newcomers to teach that you have to do wait, but you don't use the wait keywords because they are not actually anymore working, because they are dynamic web paths, and you have to look under the hood to do the waiting. Browser library, because of the Playwright, does a lot of waiting for you automatically out of the box. It hides that part, and it's very cool in that sense. But again, if you have a large existing Selenium test suite, the Selenium library is not dying anywhere. I still maintain it. Yeah, I don't see that far in the future how long, but at least some time. And when the Selenium 4 comes out, I think we will provide support for that also. So it's not dying. You don't have to be afraid of that. It would die, drop into water, and that way it will be still maintained. And as usual, it's, I think my 42 seconds already went, but I will say that it would be nice to get feedback. Also for the browser library and for the Selenium library, what you kind of wish for to happen. Yeah, that's 42 seconds.
Maybe one word or a few about the migration between Selenium library and browser library. We requested already one or twice in the Selenium channel that you could maybe send us some statistics of what Selenium keywords you're using. So I wrote a very small tool that you can just run it over your output XML from Robot Framework from one of your Selenium runs, and it will just count how often is a specific Selenium keyword is called, and from how many parents is it called. Which is also good information for you, that you know, okay, the click element, I just wrote it in 5,000 things. So maybe it's a little bit harder to replace than on another project where I have 60,000 times calling click element, but it's only used in 5 elements to replace them, for example. And if you send us these statistics, we could get an idea of what keywords of Selenium library you are using, because I think there are a lot of keywords that no one's used, like these table keywords or something like this, because no one ever used tables at the moment anymore. And so if we get an idea of what keywords are the most pain and most often used, we will implement them as fast in the browser library. And at the moment, I think everything what is used still now or until now, except the register locator strategy, which is not implemented yet, we have already the possibilities to replace a Selenium keyword with a browser keyword. And I will proceed with as next project with a small like integration layer that has Selenium keywords to the outside, and it's just using browser keywords inside. So you could use this to try if an easy migration layer is possible. So this would also be a project. And also, if you have some ideas how we should support you migrating, just give the ideas and use the hashtag browser in Slack to give us information. Yes. And
one thing also, this is like the first project in open source space that I've been involved that is not like a lonely wolf project. So we're actually a community of people doing this, which has been a lot of fun, and I hope everyone here can find some ways in participating in that group effort.
And we are also interested in just people. So if you say, "Hey, I'm not a developer," but just tell us bugs. Yeah, just play around with it. It is a lot of benefit if you tell us some bugs. Yeah.
Miko, where can people find the library?
In the great new market square.
Yes. There. In the place where all the project of the users go to, right?
Yeah. So
if they want to join that community, all they need to do is go into there, right, as being shown as Renee's presenting, and maybe there's a link there under join organization, and that will create a ticket, and we can put you in the organization. That just gives you easier access into the code.
And it's just github.com/marketsquare, and there we have the Robot Framework browser. We have also the nice request library, which is also moved to this here. And by the way, what we completely forgot, it's community driven, but it wouldn't be possible without Robocorp and also without Ismo Aro and the Robot Framework Foundation. So we are proud to hand over the copyright to Robot Framework Foundation. So yeah, this is also a foundation project, which hopefully is or will be as successful as the Selenium library is. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Any questions?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Luca.
I really love the implicit assertion feature. That is something that I implemented also in the 0.8 of requests library. And is there? I also like a lot the two parameters that you can pass to the library to the keyword. I was thinking about is there a way maybe for other projects to integrate this mechanism? Maybe do you have plans to separate that feature in a sort of library that others project can?
It is already separated, so we have this assertion engine that can be used. So there's a assertion engine class.
But as I understood, the question was that are we going to publish it as its own separate feature?
Ah, okay.
We could publish it.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a cool extension for everyone that builds library for Robot frameworks. Very nice. I like the idea. And I have another question. We in Chile we are using a lot Selenium Grid to run tests on different in parallel. I think this is a quite common architecture for test infrastructure. How can we deal with this? If we have, I mean, if there is any solution, or maybe there are other ways.
Basically, the biggest thing is you should file an issue on our GitHub that we should expose the Playwright feature to connect to remote servers. Because
So
Playwright already supports that. We just haven't we haven't yet had a user with the need to use it, so it's not yet.
It's a little bit different than on the grid
Yes,
side. So
definitely.
Selenium Grid can also distribute stuff. On the browser, it's like you cannot. So you can open a browser independently, and then you can just connect to an existing browser and then open their contexts. So a remote connection would be possible. For example, if you say, "Hey, I have a core with or a computer with 16 or 32 cores, and I can run Robot Framework with Pabot there." But then I have 16 computers that are just hosting the browsers itself. That would be possible. But at the moment, it's not exposed. But I think it's still different than Selenium. For example, if you use stuff like Selenium or some cloud-based things, that would be a little bit more complicated with browser. But I think, for my feeling, sometimes you have to request why you are using Grid. Is it because of cross-browser testing, or is it because of speed, because you're too slow on one machine? So there are different reasons for using grids, and or maybe because you have an Internet Explorer and a Safari and something like this, and you need different operating system, which is also not a problem anymore. So, okay, Internet Explorer is still a problem, but it will be in the future as well. But, so there are different reasons for using this. Maybe in the near future, we will also support this connect to browser stuff to have a little bit more remote stuff.
Okay, well, maybe we can rework our architecture if there are any best practices for, of course, performance and cross-browsing. Okay, thanks. I think it would be very nice if maybe I didn't spot already the GitHub page that much, but if you can put some comparison, the same that you shown us about the performance between Selenium and browser, I think would be very an information that people will consider in using this new library, because it's quite amazing the difference in the startup.
Yeah, we definitely need people that make pull requests for some nice page.
Yes.
So I think none of us are really doing nice pages. Like,
okay.
Oh no.
so if someone is a web designer, please help us.
Yes, please.
Not the kind of guy, but I may help anyway. And I also like the idea of the integration tool, and I really love the idea of gathering data from people that you're using to get feedback of how many keywords are really used and focus these for development. It's a very, very lean and agile way of helping the community in translating keywords and projects to this new library. Well done, guys.
There's still 5 minutes.
Yes, Marcus here. I have a question. Hi. It's about the Robot Framework browser image that's published on GitHub. I wanted to integrate it into my pipelines, and I need a GitHub token for it. And well, I can of course generate token on my personal GitHub account, but since it's for my company, I didn't want to place my GitHub account and token in my company's pipeline. Is it possible to publish the image somewhere in the open space, maybe on Docker Hub?
Yeah, we could publish it also.
Karko, you're muted.
Right. Yeah, we could also publish it on Docker Hub. Yeah, basically this is a problem of the GitHub package index not supporting unauthorized pulls even when the image is completely public. So we can get that done probably today.
Awesome.
Or maybe we can have pull requests from Niels regarding this stuff, because I think Niels knows a lot with Docker and Kubernetes stuff. So
I can even put it into the Humanitech Docker registry.
that would be awesome also as well. Yeah, distribute it.
That would be nicer.
Okay, guys, I think you are running out of time, so we will have his.
Oh, maybe
Oh.
just one thing we completely forgot. We are a lot using enumerations in Playwright, and this is a very new thing. So a lot of our values are just enums, and so these enums accept some specific values, and the upcoming robot framework versions will also support enums in libdoc, and the next language server then after the robot framework release will also support autocompletion for these things. So like the assertion engines at the moment, you have to know that you have to use the equal or is equal something, but when this is done on the robot framework side, it will be just like automatic doing some code completion that equal is allowed or greater than is allowed and so on. So, and also with at the moment a lot of values are case sensitive, so be careful because the enumerations are case sensitive. With the release, Pekka already just implemented these case sensitivity will also be gone in the 3.2.2. So thanks Pekka for the work on this part. Now I'm gone.
All
All right. Thank you, guys. Great work. So, Niels, it's your turn. Please.
Yay!